She thinks as she plays, getting better in spite of the lack of tuition, from sheer practice, until she realises that she would like to learn about speaking. She requests to learn rhetoric. Her mother refuses her. She asks why she could possibly need to learn such a thing. Because I would like to learn singing, she says, to go with my playing, to accompany myself. But I have just learnt music, so singing would be too similar. But rhetoric would teach me how to declaim, and then I should put the two and two together and have the confidence to sing. But no one would hear you singing if you started to practice. Coppelia winces. No, but I don't know how to breathe for singing. A speaker would teach me that. And finally, after much nagging, her mother relents. Another young man comes to the house with wild red hair and a characterful face. He is amusing and witty as well as a good speaker, and he teaches her how to breathe, if speaking on a platform, how to prepare the voice for song or loud talking. But he also tells her of the importance of something to speak about, of having things to say. He gives her examples by telling her anecdotes of faraway cities and interesting people. But the moment she breaks out one day into song, he is dismissed. Well, she knew it was going to happen. She misses his company. She plays constantly and frequently, singing along with her playing, well and strongly. Her mother does not like noise. Coppelia finds that even now, when this is no longer repetitions or broken notes, that her mother does not like music. Her mother bangs on the ceiling with a broom, asking her to quieten down, and shouts through the ceiling. Finally, Coppelia asks to learn to dance, and her mother asks what on earth could be the reason for wanting to learn that. And she replies, because the music makes me want to dance and move about, but I should never have the confidence to do so if I were not taught. But no one would see you if you learnt, so what would it matter, says her mother. Coppelia winces. But it must be in time to the music. I wish to be able to dance to the music. But why? You cannot play and dance at the same time. But I could sing and dance, or know that the dance went with the tune I could play. Her mother is incredibly reluctant to allow her to learn, but the playing and the singing are getting to her. At long last, a dark-haired young man comes to the house with a face both of symmetry and character, and he teaches Coppelia how to move to the music. You have a natural grace, he says. You are surprised, she asks, not knowing whether this is praise or blame. You were so stiff when first I came, as if you had never moved freely. But once that was gone, one would never believe that you used to move with such constraint. Coppelia's mother has always told her she is clumsy, a perfect child, but clumsy and noisy. She remembers now that always on her rambles she sang to herself, possibly very badly, but never indoors, never in the house. Nor did she dare to run up and down the stairs as much as she would have liked. So I can dance now? Oh, undoubtedly. But her mother says, you can dance now, what more do you want? Coppelia's only conclusion, only consolation, is that the dancing master this time seems sorry also. Coppelia goes to her room and she looks at the dolls. The dolls which had always watched her only company, the dolls that sit about in her room. And it occurs to her for the first time, there is a doll with fair hair, a doll with red hair, and a dark-haired doll. Some of the other dolls look something like people she has seen. There is a doll that looks like a young woman she once saw coming out of the baker's shop. Well, the necklace, the girl always wore a necklace, and the necklace on the doll is so like. But not everyone reminds her of people. Not yet. Then she looks at the life-size doll, the doll that is meant to be like her, though she has never felt the resemblance. The doll does wear her kind of clothes. The hair is a little the same kind of colour. But she has never felt the resemblance. She remembers that her mother has always fawned over this doll and told her to treasure it above all things, to be careful with it. Coppelia sings and plays all day, and she dances in her room until her mother shouts at her that the floorboards will come down. And that night, Coppelia looks at the dolls again as she takes the fair-haired doll and wraps it up in a shawl. She goes downstairs and draws back carefully the bolts of the front door, unlocks the lock. The house is very secure at night. As quietly as she can, she goes out, wrapped up warmly, with the shawl with the doll in it under her arm, and she comes to the wood. She builds a little pyre out of fallen branches, and with great bravery, for she has never been shown how, and never once done it before, she strikes a match stolen from the kitchen, for she has watched, and it has been dry. She is lucky, and it catches. She waits. It gets up a little blaze. It needs to be bigger than she thought. She finds more wood, more fallen branches. At last the blaze is crackling merrily. She's almost afraid of the fire. And then she throws the doll into the flames and then instantly regrets it. "What have I done?" she says. "What if I'm wrong?" she whispers. But the fire has caught, and it burns up the small burden. At last she puts it out, and she goes back to the house. The next morning, having only slept fitfully, she gets up quickly. She's been alarmed at the deed, alarmed at what might be, alarmed that her mother may find the doll missing. But today it seems her mother will not go to Coppelia's room. After breakfast, Coppelia goes out into the fields like one in a dream, over stile, over stream, until... Hello. Oh! Are you all right? You look ready to faint. Here, take my arm, he says. Oh! She breathes in huge gasps of air. You look quite pale. I'm all right. Really, I'm just out of breath. The piano tutor does not look convinced, walking quickly. At first I thought you were pleased to see me, but now I think the shock has upset you. No, not at all. Honestly, I had a nightmare last night about this wood. She is amazed at her own invention. And when I happened along, you promptly jump out of your skin. Yes, just so, exactly. So you're not afraid then, I hope. He is laughing, but she thinks, no, afraid for you, more like. No, I'm glad to have met you. More than you can possibly know, she thinks. After some banter in which she acquits herself quite well, they part, him thinking she's improved. She had always been so shy. The next night she does the same thing with the red-headed doll. She sleeps a little better when she gets back to her room again. She rises and eats early. Her mother says, off again? Such a lovely day, mother. All rime and hoarfrost. Well, don't talk to strangers now. It is always what her mother says. Coppelia goes to the meadow. She walks, but this time purposefully, with a searching glance. And soon, if it isn't Coppelia, the rhetorician with the quaint name, how are you? Asks the red-haired young man, turning out of the footpath to greet her. She smiles, feeling as if it is the first smile she has bestowed in weeks upon another. Glad to see you, she says, and they talk like old friends. When they part, he thinks really she is more lively than she was. That next night, she does the same thing with the dark-haired doll, and this time she is more worried because sooner or later her mother will come into her room and demand to know where the missing dolls are. But now she has begun, she cannot stop. And the next morning, another walk. Good heavens, you will get frostbite. I will keep warm, she replies. But she thinks better of it, and in a haze of doubt and impatience she waits until the afternoon. Then she leaves for a beautiful brook, all these places in which she had never seen a soul before. Save the odd farm labourer, of whom she knew, and hence to whom she was not allowed to speak, and always such a distance off. Such a distance off. She walks and does not know what she thinks. Coppelia! Someone is glad or pierced or both to see her. Vincent, she says, holding out her hand. He had taught her how to dance, after all. When she comes home this time, she takes all the rest of the dolls in broad daylight, and Vincent carries the largest one for her. She has made a big bonfire this time, just beyond the garden, at the highest point on the hill. What are you doing, Coppelia? What is this man doing here? Asks her mother. Helping, mother, helping me. She pushes her mother aside. She goes so resolute and stern of face with the young man walking behind her that her mother does not dare to stop her. She throws the dolls into the fire she has lit. Coppelia, how could you? The dolls! But Coppelia does not reply. Finally, the young man hands her the great big doll, the life-size doll, and her mother shouts, not that doll, Coppelia, not your doll. You mustn't, young man. Don't give it her. She will die. He steps back for a moment, but Coppelia, now that the rest of the dolls are all burning, wrenches it from him and throws it onto the fire. It burns. A terrible scream is heard, and when Vincent and Coppelia turn, the house looks deserted, curtainless and carpetless, the garden overgrown, and no one is there to be found.
Oh, wow, I love that story. I'd forgotten how much I liked it.